Buffalo After Dark is proud to recommend I Barbecue for You. Pre-orders are suggested by calling 716-880-7667. I Barbecue for You, Buffalo's new barbecue destination.
Just move the coyotes. Don't do another expansion.
Right? It would never crossed my mind. So somebody called the house when I was out mowing the grass.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Holy shit, your face is like purple.
Are you still up? Now in your fifth season, it's Buffalo After Dark.
Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Tuesday night, July 1st. Of course, happy Canada Day to our friends across the border. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day because he gets paid until 2035. Let's see, my birthday is on Friday, so of course we'll say happy birthday to myself a few days early. And of
Happy
course,
birthday, you old fuck.
True Buffalo After Dark tradition there. And of course, it's our last episode of Buffalo After Dark because we're going to be starting something new in September. So of course, Hanson's here as usual, and we figured, you know what, hey, we're going a little old school, how it all kind of started with hockey.
Yeah, you know what? In a way, it's been crazy. It's been a hell of a journey, man. 5+ years of doing Buffalo After Dark.
Mhm.
And I gotta tell you, it's kind of a nice little send-off before we start our new journey, which is at I-86 After Dark in September.
Mhm.
But you know what? At the end of the day, it'll always have a special place in our hearts, for sure. Because the two of us have really went from nothing to building this foundation together. And then we've grown to have a good base of people that have really listened to us in the last couple of years, which is very appreciative of
Mhm.
all of you listening, even tonight. We applaud you. Thank you very much for all the memories and sharing all that stuff. We couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah, of course. And who would have thought that literally here we are, 225 episodes later on a COVID era show that we never thought would have lasted. And it's like, here we are. We did 5 full seasons and on average of about 50 some episodes a season. So that's a lot of stuff, man. We did that and of course, I mean, we had a lot of people along the way also. I mean, even though the two of us were here the entire time, I mean, we had our co-hosts here. We had a variety of people that jumped on. We've had some guests from time to time, and we've had a lot of good memories that have come from this show. So of course, with that, and now we're doing Spotify and YouTube and different things, and so it's a lot easier to, of course, find us. So it's definitely been a good way to go, and we've been able to do a lot of cool things. And now it's one of those things we take that next step, go bigger, and that's what we're looking to do. So you know what, it's not a bad way to go, and we'll talk about some fun moments we've had on this show also as we go a little bit into it, which I can already think of a few of them.
Yeah, we definitely have our ups and downs throughout the show. We've had some pushbacks, sure. We've also had some good guests on the show as well, some good co-hosts. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of members. I think this whole episode, I mean, obviously we're going to be covering free agency and stories across the entire NFL and NHL. MLB, it's not worth it because
Not a
No,
whole lot
sorry.
that happened this past week.
yeah, pretty much. So we'll recap the draft. We'll talk about some free agency moves and some trades and all that fun jazz.
Mhm.
And then in September, we'll be back as I-86 After Dark. So think of this as a way of saying, what's the meaning? Shit. I'm trying to remember the meaning of it.
Yeah, we can kind of say it's like, it's not goodbye, it's see you down the road. And
Thank you.
we're just doing some different things. And even though the name itself will be retired, it's one of those where, now we're covering a lot more downstate sports, and we're covering a lot more national sports compared to what we used to. So, you know what? It's a nice evolution of the show. I mean, the show itself is not going away. It's just
No.
it's going to be a name change. That's really the biggest thing. And then we're still looking at having some new co-hosts on here. We've tried out a few. One of them's not panning out, so of course we're still going to be looking. So who knows?
It's basically trial and error.
Exactly. And hey, if you have an interest and you want to be on here, hey, hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah. That would be awesome. I mean, I've already tried to recruit a few people myself, and I haven't heard back. But you know what? Mainly, we're targeting downstate where I'm at in Long Island. With the Islanders and the
Mhm.
Mets, because we're both Mets fans. Obviously, the Bills. We'll cover the Bills and the
Yep.
Sabres are your end. But because we're both Bills fans, obviously, for
Mhm.
anybody who's been listening to the show, we're trying to also expand a little bit in terms of the Jets and the Rangers, the Yankees even. It's not a guarantee as far as getting admins, but it is a guarantee that it will most likely be discussed moving forward.
Yep, exactly. And anyone who's followed our Facebook page saw the rebrand earlier late last week. So yeah, now instead of H&H Entertainment Buffalo Sports, it's now New York Sports. So we're covering everybody now.
Yep. Now we just have to just grow. And that's what I think Tom and I are pretty confident we're going to do. And
Yeah.
I think with more variety and more uh exposure, I think it's definitely going to help us grow for sure. And
Mhm.
I'll forever, have a special place in my heart for the Buffalo After Dark name, but we have some really, really awesome times, man. We really did.
Yeah, we did, and we've seen some of the worst moments here, like in terms of different things in sports. We've seen some great moments at the same time, and hell, we even got thrown in the Kansas City Star one year. So we got some recognition in other places other than here, but you know what? It's been a good ride so far, and obviously 5 years on this show, and come to think about it, shit, it's gonna be 12 years we've done different things together now, with going all the way back. If like for people that really followed us way back and are still here, well, we appreciate it, but if you remember the NHL 365 days, Sabres Talk 365 that you used to run, I had Buffalo Sabres Blue and Gold Mafia, which I used to run, and we ended up linking together. We ran some shows, we did some different things. Basically, I got my start in podcasting with this genius, so that's how I got into it. And then pretty much from there, let's see, we ended up diving into a bunch of different hockey related sites. We had the Wingsicle at one point, where we did some interviews, and I remember with that, we had the Clint Malarchuk interview. I try to think who else we had. Mike, shit, what's his name?
Well, I had Clint Malarchuk on one of
Yeah,
my old shows.
yeah. We both jointly interviewed Clint Malarchuk at one point together. Also, uh, who was the former Ranger that we had on?
We had Mike Hartman.
Okay, that is the last name was escaping me for a moment. So I mean, we had him on, and then of course thinking about more recently, we ended up having, of course, we ended up getting Derek Plant, which he was absolutely hilarious, and we do still have the audio of that interview on Spotify. So of course, if you want to go to our Spotify page, you can find it. And then more recently, your cousin, the Steamroller, Matt Frivola, which he's going to be coming back for season debut. So we're going to have him on the second time, which he's our only two-timer. So
Absolutely. Matt has said he loved being on the show, and he's definitely looking forward to it.
yeah, of course. So it'll be a lot. So a lot of good moments, and then obviously, of course, tonight, if you want to chime in, we do have the YouTube chat going on live, obviously. So of course, find us there. We're also live through our YouTube link on Facebook, and of course, check out our old stuff on Spotify, as we mentioned. But let's go into hockey. That's really the biggest thing of the day. For those who ended up watching Friday night, we had our 4+ hour we had our 4 hour draft special. So we had some good moments on that, and we do want to cover a little bit about what the Sabres did. We also want to cover what the Islanders did, and it was no surprise. Obviously, pick number one, Matthew Schaefer, goes to the Islanders, and there was a nice little session of everyone being pissed off because he didn't get the hometown boy afterwards. Apparently, the pick didn't go exactly as planned, and they went, and Boston decided to keep him. But tell us a little bit about the draft party, how everything went for those who didn't listen, and let's talk about the draft.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because I actually have a video on my personal channel at Buffalo Bob on YouTube about the draft party. But for those of you who don't know where to find it, I'll tell you with the story now. So I went to, as you guys know, Tom just said it, I went to the draft party on Friday, June 27th at UBS Arena. And it was the very first one ever held at the new building, which was really nice. And it was also the first draft party in 6 years since Lou Lamoriello was hired that the Islanders held a draft party, which is awesome. But at that point in time, people were just very, very excited. And I got to do a lot of cool shit on that draft party. So for one instance, I was able to sit in the front row during the 5:30 press conference with Shannon Hogan and Thomas Hickey interviewing Matthew Darsh, which was really, really nice. And he was just a busy guy. I wanted to get his autograph, but he was a little busy, which is understandable. And he basically said he wanted to build a faster, more physical team, which I admire. At least that's something to go for there. And of course, a bunch of other alumni came, and Steve Webb, Sean Bates, and Eric Cairns were there. Casey Cizikas, JG Pageau, Matt Marcel made a surprise visit. No, there was a lot of former alumni. Dennis Seidberg was there. John Tonelli was there, and I got to meet at least 4 of them. I met Eric Cairns and Sean Bates, both great guys. Dennis Seidberg was chill, and then John Tonelli. And there's a story about John Tonelli. My grandfather had a puck from 30 years ago. My late Uncle Brian, who died 10 years ago, and my grandfather, who we called Papa in my household, he died over 10 years ago as well. And their signatures, Brian and Papa, were on the back of the puck. And it was from 1995 in a game when the Islanders beat the Boston Bruins 5-3. And I asked John Tonelli to sign the puck, and he said, sure, I absolutely would love to do that. And I said, Papa, you guys would be proud of me. And I lived up to a legacy that I've been trying to hold on to for many, many years. And then, of course, I met with my colleagues and some old friends of mine and things like that. So it was really cool overall just to kind of be there again. But I think the best part was probably to get the reaction of the crowd. And I have it on tape as well, of the crowd just reacting to the first overall pick with Matthew Schaefer.
Nice. Yeah, and and I did get a chance to watch the episode actually the other night, so it was a nice little overview of everything, and you got to see, of course, the pick as it happens. So that was awesome. But no, it's definitely a good story, and I remember you were showing me the signed puck and everything, so it was a good thing.
Well, I think I've said the story before. I may have told you that Sean Bates, growing up when I was a kid, when I went to the old Coliseum for Islander games,
Yeah.
Sean Bates was my favorite player. And this was before the penalty shot game in Game 4, 2002 against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I was at that game, which is a coincidence.
Yeah. So no, definitely a good thing that you got to see there. So like in addition to Matthew Schaefer, obviously I know the crowd was not happy with the fact that Boston ended up taking the hometown kid. But what are your thoughts on the draft overall in terms of what you got with the Islanders in terms of your draft class?
I'm pretty pleased with it. I mean, Schaefer is going to be a very, very fine player, and he's already making himself at home. He was supposed to go to the Mets game tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers, but that got postponed due to the rain. He was going to throw the opening pitch, and he was saying with him and a couple of his buddies, he's like, oh, I can't wait to go to the Mets game. I've never been to a Mets game in my life. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I wish that that I went to that game because that would have been fun, but I'm lucky I didn't get any tickets because, well, it rained out. But I had other things to take care of as well. But as far as Schaefer goes, that dude could skate. And for a 17-year-old, he can really move his body. And what's even more fascinating is that his puck handling is really well coordinated. And he's also getting advice from guys like Eric Cairns and Dennis Seitenberg, who both by coincidence are scouts for the New York Islanders, and Rocky Thompson, the new head coach of the Bridgeport Islanders, which, by the way, I want to get to them in a little bit, was also in attendance and one of the other picks as well.
Yep, for sure. So, and thinking about the draft overall, I mean, there were not a lot of surprises, and actually a lot of what some of the analysts and pundits were saying was pretty close. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of change on there. I would have to say, thinking about the draft class, I don't mind what the Sabres did, and I don't think Adams had as much influence on it as what some people may think. I think it was mostly a Lindy Ruff and Jarmo Kekalainen draft, quite honestly, in terms of who they ended up going with, and especially focusing a lot on defense, because obviously the Sabres have had a lot of their problems with defense. Offensively, we can score. Tage Thompson can score. Peterka, before we got rid of him to Utah, he was definitely one that was emerging. They have some good forwards on there. And now, with the fact that they really decided to bulk up on the defense, especially when you're going with 3 defensemen as part of the overall draft class, you have 3 defensemen, 2 goaltenders, and then the rest forwards. I mean, that definitely says that, hey, we needed to address the need. And now with the fact, of course, when you look back at the trade with Utah, now it's been a week later, and thinking about how we got Michael Kesselring, and then we end up getting Radim Marka, is our first pick in the draft at 9 overall, and you got 2 big right-handed shot defensemen, that solved a need. And that's something where I think, that's a big plus. Now, also, it's good that we ended up getting a couple goaltenders just to keep that pipeline going. Obviously, we ended up qualifying our... Shit, I just lost my train of thought.
You were talking about qualifying your RFAs.
Yeah, so we did qualify our RFAs. We ended up getting that all taken care of. So that's a big plus. We needed to do that. And of course, we did that with 6 different players over the past couple days. So, of course, obviously, we ended up extending qualifying offers to Tyson Kozak and Ryan McLeod, which we extended Ryan McLeod 4 years. We also ended up doing that with Devin Levi, which I'm glad that we did. They ended up also doing offers to Bowen Byram, Ryan Johnson, and Connor Timmins on top of it. So basically with that, we ended up getting that done. And then at that point, okay, so we keep McLeod for another 4 years. Okay, I'm fine with that. It's kind of like low risk in that sense. But I will tell you one thing that is funny though today, and I might have sent you this, but it was reported in the Buffalo News that apparently the front office thinks that the media is being too critical of them. I'm like, too critical? Dude, Kevin Adams, listen to our show. You'll find out they're not being critical enough.
Oh my God!
Critical
They did
my
not
ass.
go there. They did not go there.
They did. They actually did go there.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God! And here we thought that, and I said it too. It feels like being a Sabres fan is like communism, and they're doing communist shit.
Yeah. So, and it was also on Reddit today too. But the Sabre Report, which is on X. And this was also in the Buffalo News, but quote, according to sources, some members of the Sabres management believe the television coverage has been too critical. And then
fucking quit then.
Yeah, exactly. And then they also mentioned the Buffalo News, Alan Pergament, who he's been around for millions of years. He said, the Sabres are making a TV production lineup change that won't help declining ratings. Hello, you have declining ratings because your product fucking sucks. That's why.
Yeah, and you have too many fucking blowhards on there. Marty Biron.
Right.
Marty Biron, I feel like to a lot of Buffalonians, Marty Biron could do almost no wrong. And considering he's an Islander alumni and a Sabre alumni, and we both have interactions with him, I think it's safe to say that from that perspective, I think it's safe to say that I think he started to lose his marbles just because of the amount of losing and insanity that the Sabres have done to him in the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things, it's like, oh, hey, we're losing 6-2. All right, come on, guys. But no, what they did is they're making some changes to the production staff. So basically what's going to happen is Joe Pinter, who's been producing Sabres games since 2002, and he's also been with the team for 37 years, which goes all the way back to way before the Sabres were even on Empire Sports Network. Basically, Joe Pinter got the boot. He was told, yeah, your services are no longer needed. Go somewhere else.
Jesus Christmas. And here I thought that it couldn't get any more rock bottom. I mean, what's the definition of rock bottom for the Sabres at this point? You've already hit rock bottom with the GM. You've already hit rock bottom with your free agent signings, which you didn't even tackle yet. And then Yeah, no, this is bad, dude. You guys are in deep shit,
Mhm.
especially with that owner and especially with that GM. I don't know if it's gonna get any better, and I think you know deep down. And I don't mean to throw salt, but that's truth. You know,
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
fact that you guys have been so shit for so long that I'm even frustrated with you guys.
Right. Well, and think about this. Today, 5 years ago, is when the guy who thinks, oh, well, people don't want to come here because we don't have palm trees was fucking hired.
Oh my god! And it's also today the 18th anniversary of when Danny Briere and Chris Drury both left the
Yeah.
Sabres to go different directions.
Yep.
Oh my god! And if I'm not mistaken, the Islanders also brought in Mike Comrie in that same free agent class. And if
Mhm.
I'm not mistaken, too, they also brought Bill Guerin in as the captain for 2 years, and then won a Stanley Cup 2 years later.
Yeah. It's just absolutely crazy just looking back at this date in Sabres history and thinking about, wow, how the hell did Kevin Adams survive 5 years is beyond me.
He should have been fired a long time ago.
Yeah, he should have been gone at least 3 years ago. I mean, he's absolutely useless as a GM and makes absolutely stupid decisions. But that being said, I mean, I don't mind the draft direction we went. Red and Merca, obviously, I like that pick that we ended up doing. David Bezkowski, another right-handed shot defenseman. So I'm glad that we bulked up on that. So literally by doing that trade in our first two picks in the draft, we have three right-handed shot defensemen now. So that's actually a big plus. We end up then getting a center at our fourth pick, which is Matus Kacharik out of the Czech Junior League. So haven't seen a whole ton with him, but in 25 games played, he had 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points, 6'4", 180. So I think the overall trend is that we're getting taller players, bigger players, which I'm totally fine with. Then, of course, we had Sam Milosh, goaltender, out of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League with Rin Noranda. So he's actually one of several players that came off of that team. But we ended up using the 116th pick from Minnesota versus via Anaheim. And 6'2", 190, .900 save percentage, 2.9 goals against average. So not bad in terms of 51 games played this past year, and ended up tying for second during the regular season with 30 wins and went 8-3-2 in 13 playoff games. So not a bad record there, especially for that type of work. And then thinking about some of the other players we ended up getting, I mean, Noah LaBerge, he is a left-handed defenseman from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League from Acadie Bathurst, 6 foot, 187, ranked third among all draft eligible defensemen in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League and 16th among all the league's eligible players with 35 points. So that's good. Had a lot of good things according to Elite Prospects. Then the sixth round, we ended up getting Ashton Schultz, center of Chicago from the USHL. 5'11", 180, 57 games played last season, 14 goals, 25 assists, 39 points, and he led Chicago with the number of points. And it's the second time he's done that, and he's going to play college hockey at North Dakota. So good to see that. And then, let's see, 7th round from Nashville, pick 195, Melvin Novotny, forward from Leksands Junior in the Swedish League. Let's see, 41 games played, 12 goals, 26 assists, 38 points, was ranked 5th overall on the Junior 20 team, and also is going to be in the USHL playing with the Muskegon Lumberjacks, and he likes to be creative in the defensive zone and also be able to get his feet moving. Likes to be physical, thinks he's an all-around two-way player. Then we had Yevgeny Prokhorov, goaltender out of the MHL, in the 7th round, 6'3", 172. And last season, 2.9 goals against, 903 save percentage, and in only 28 games played. And basically had a 943 save percentage in 6 playoff games. Apparently the assistant GM, Jerry Fortin, who's a fucking moron, basically ended up saying that he thinks Prokhorov's going to make the jump to North American hockey in the near future. So hopefully, simple, develop him in Rochester and don't rush him, because of course we saw what happened to Devin Levi. So there's that. Then last but not least, in the 7th round, we had Ryan Rosinski. He is a right winger from Youngstown of the USHL, native of Broadview Heights, Ohio, which is in Cleveland. So 5'10", 176, 49 games played last season, 19 goals, 23 assists, 42 points. Ranked 4th overall on his team with the 42 points last season, and he's going to play college hockey at Ohio State. So overall, I like that we did bulk up on the defense. We needed to do that. I'm glad we got right-handed defensemen now, so that's huge. We needed that. And, of course, Adams was too fucking dumb to do that in the last several seasons. So he finally did, that's why I think it was more of a Kekalainen and Lindy Ruff mandate with everything. And I think overall, I'm not that mad about the draft by any means. I think we addressed some big-time needs that we needed. I was going to ask if you saw this one thing, but there was actually some speculation, or there was actually something that came out in the Buffalo News and basically saying that Lindy Ruff controlled a huge part of the draft. And he basically had a lot of say in what we ended up doing.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because I think he's gotten to a point where it's either they make the playoffs or he's done. Because the Sabres have been so overdue to what's it called? The Sabres are so overdue to make the playoffs at this point. They should have made the playoffs at least 2-3 years ago. But no, we already know the story to that one.
Yeah, they should have made it when Jack Eichel was still here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, and he's been in the league almost 10 years now, if not 10 years.
Yeah, it's nuts. But as far as the draft for the Islanders, I may as well recap the Islanders since you did the Sabres. So in the first round, we already know, first overall was Matthew Schaefer out of the Erie Otters. He's got size, and he's a very, physical, skilled offensive defenseman, as we all know. He went to the New York Islanders first overall. The second one, and a lot of people were saying after the trade with Noah Dobson, because we never got around to it because it was live coverage, was the trade that sent Noah Dobson to the Montreal Canadiens for Emil Hyman and 2 first-round picks. And the Islanders, now looking back, had back-to-back first-round picks number 16 and 17. So instead of moving up to get James Higgins, I mean, fuck my life, that did not go. That did not work out too well. Instead of panicking because they didn't get one player, they said, you know what? We're going to go back on the board and we're going to go get our next guys. So that's exactly what the Islanders did. So at pick number 16, the New York Islanders selected out of Juice Garden in the Swedish Hockey League. They chose Victor Eklund, who is, if you're not familiar with that name, he is the younger brother of William Eklund, who plays for the San Jose Sharks. Yeah. And what's crazy is that he's only 5'11", 161 pounds, and he's known for being a tenacious forechecker with a high mortar, which is huge. And if they develop him, he'll be one of the best wingers in the NHL, bar none. And what's even more crazy is not even 2 weeks before the draft, Victor Eklund was a top 10 pick in the draft. Yeah. So the Islanders really went all in on that one.
Yeah, they definitely did. And you know what? And that was a good pick, I think, because to possibly have a higher ceiling than his brother William Eklund, that's something good to look at.
Absolutely. He led Juice Garden in the Swedish Hockey League with 19 goals and a total of 31 points. And like I said, he was the team's leading goal scorer. And a lot of people said that his comparing in terms of style was compared to Jesper Bratt and Brad Marchand. So if Victor Eklund turns into anything like Brad Marchand, I'll take that. Yeah. And then the next pick, which was 17, they took Kayshawn Aitchison, who is a huge defenseman from the Barrie Colts at number 17. And he was third among OHL defensemen with 26 goals, and he was just under a point per game, but that all Barrie players with 59. And in his NHL comparison, he's being compared in terms of his skill, Darnell Nurse, but in terms of his hitting, Nicholas Cromwell.
Nice. Yeah, speaking of the Rat, of course, we'll cover that in a moment, too, because he ended up actually signed a new contract today, so we got that. And if anyone's wondering about tonight's Mets game, it has been postponed due to weather.
Yep. And then in the second round, just like Eklund, another former first-round pick, projected player, fell to the Islanders at 42. They took a big skilled forward in the second round at 6'6", Russian forward Danil Prokhorov. Holy fucking shit. 6'6", this guy is. Tom, this guy's is literally the size of the Empire State Building. That's how big he is.
That is crazy.
And he spent last season in the MHL with MHK Dynamo at St. Petersburg, where he recorded 20 goals and 27 points in 47 games. He needs time to develop before he making any sort of jump to the AHL, but we'll see what happens. And in the third round, the Islanders then took Luca Romano from the Kitchener Rangers, who is a center that's recorded 25 goals and 51 points in 67 regular season games during the OHL playoffs. Romano scored 6 goals and 11 points in 16 games. So that's not bad overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's weird. Some number just tried calling me that I don't recognize, and it actually, for some reason, it actually had their name on there. Interesting. I'll have to look that up later.
It's called spam, my friend. Don't answer it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I didn't. We'll have to see if voicemail captures anything later. And, oh, by the way, it turns out if someplace spams you enough and you're on the do not call list, you can actually sue and get like $1,500 a call if they do it more than once.
Oh, fuck that. But yeah, so in the fourth round, I picked 106. The Islanders took Tomas Politin, who's an 18-year-old Czech forward that split last season with the Pelicans and the under-20 team in the U2 SM Sergeant League, where he recorded 20 points in 25 games when he was called up by the Pelicans in the Legal League, which is, I guess that's in the KHL somewhere in the European League. So there's that. In the fifth round, they took Sam Lauria, who was a defenseman who spent all of last season with the Fargo Force of the United States Hockey League with 8 goals and 41 points in 57 games. And Lauria found his offensive game in a bit this past season, but he's trying to cruise on a top defensive style of play. And then the only goaltender the Islanders took was in pick number 6. They took Brooke Hook at number 70. At pick number 170 in the 6th round, where he spent last season in the Western Hockey League with the Vancouver Giants. And he produced a .910 save percentage and a 3.13 goals against average and 3 shutouts. And he recorded a 19-13-6 regular season record, but struggled in the postseason all year round. And reports say that Hood is a tall yet athletic goaltender, with vision being his best asset. And with the last pick at number 202, the Islanders took NTDP forward Jacob Kavashnika. And the skilled winger scored 23 goals and 53 points in 93 games last season. And he will play next year with the Pentagon Vs in the WHL before joining the University of Minnesota. So as far as my grades for the Islanders, I have not heard any shortage of shitty grades as far as what the Islanders have done. I mean, Matthew Darsh, you don't understand. Matthew Darsh has taken the Islanders format and completely just reshaped the farm in one
draft. He had a good draft, and I like what he ended up doing.
Because like 2 weeks ago, I mentioned 3 prospects. I mentioned Cole Eiserman, I mentioned Quinn Finley, and I mentioned not Schaefer. There was another player.
Well, I know you're talking about Higgins a lot.
Higgins, yes, I was. I was talking about Higgins as if he was going to be part of the core. So I was wrong on that. I did say if he doesn't get picked, then so be it. But they did turn something that was a disaster in the making into something positive. So big round of applause for Matthew Darsh in his first GM. In his first draft as GM of the New York Islanders. So I'm very pleased with what he's been able to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then when you look at some of the other things that ended up coming post-draft, of course, first thing that happens, free agency. And we had a ton of different things go across the league today. And actually the last few days. But let's talk about a little bit, of course, one of the big deals that ended up happening. Mitch Marner, he is no longer a Toronto Maple Leaf. He's heading to Vegas, 8 years, $96 million. And I have to wonder, how the hell does Vegas keep affording all these players?
Because the cap is going up.
Well, there's that, but like still, it's just absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. I'm not lying about that. But I just find it nuts that not only did Vegas get Mitch Marner, because originally from Steve Dangles, I was listening to his video, he said that the Leafs originally signed Marner to the 8-year contract. That's how Vegas got that 8-year deal. They signed him and then traded him to the Golden Knights for Nicholas Watt, which is insane. Yeah. But I think in terms of value, obviously Vegas won that deal, but Nicholas Watt is a Stanley Cup champion, and he would be a nice, depth piece for Toronto.
Sure would. And then another deal that ends up happening is Brock Besser ended up signing a 7-year deal to stay with the Vancouver Canucks.
It's funny because leading up to the free agency, there was talk the Islanders were interested in Brock Besser if he did not resign with Vancouver, and obviously he ended up staying in Vancouver. I would have loved Brock Besser on the Islanders.
Hmm.
Like truthfully, I would have loved that. But were there any rumors that were involving big name players for the Sabres or not recently?
Not really,
Oh, that's
because
tough,
Adams
man.
is too cheap, and all he likes to do is dumpster dive.
Well, I mean, unfortunately for you, that's kind of a big barrier that you have to carry at this point. But I will say the Islanders, the day before free agency, Alex Romanov, my guy, Alex Romanov got an 8-year deal worth about $6.25 million with the New York Islanders the day before free agency.
There you
And
go.
I am beyond happy that they kept him around because I said, and I've debated this, I said I'd rather keep Romanov because he's a hard checking defenseman and he can be physical, which is absolutely, that is absolutely something that this team desperately needed. And having him in the lineup will benefit the team moving forward. But I just find it crazy to me that a lot of people are bitching, saying, "Oh, Romanov got overpaid. Why is Darsh imitating Lou with all these big ass contracts?" I'm like, well, he's 25. It's not like you're paying him when he's 30. So
Right, or like 32 or something even later than that.
yeah, Romanov is only 25, so I'm not bitching. But he's not the only Islander to re-sign with the team. And the other ones that came out were Liam Foudy, who signed a 1-year minor league deal, and Scott Perenovich left as a UFA today and went to the Utah Mammoths, which sucks, but
Hmm.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I will say though, from a retrospective, I actually have the list right here for the New York Islanders in terms of what they've done. One of the things they did was they signed Simon Holmstrom to an extension today, thankfully, and the deal was 2 years at 3.625 million dollars. And then they bring in Ethan Bear from the Washington Capitals for 1 year for 775K with a Bridgeport deal if he goes back to the Bridgeport Islanders. And then David Riddick signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Islanders today because that's indication that Semyon Varlamov will not be ready to go for the start of the new year coming up in October. And there is another one I didn't mention yet. Tony DeAngelo got a 1-year deal worth about 1.75 million with the team.
Hmm. Yeah, and when you look at free agency on the Sabres end, we have done like virtually nothing because basically the only thing we did is sign backup goaltender Alex Lyon for 2 years. That's
Well,
it.
that that's not really saying a whole lot. I mean,
No.
actually, that's not the only thing. Now that I think about it,
Yeah,
that's
two
not
years,
the only.
$1.5 million a year.
You traded Sam Laverty.
Yeah, that did happen. Okay, so there is one other thing that happened, and Jacob Bernard Docker ended up leaving, and he signed with the Detroit Red Wings. But there really hasn't been a whole lot, and really right now they haven't made that hard push to go after quality free agents.
And you have the cap for him. But
We have plenty of cap.
but there is one free agent that I did not mention yet that signed with the Islanders today,
Mhm.
and it was either a dark horse candidate, best case scenario, or oh my god, this was my favorite. And you probably know where I'm going with this. The Islanders ended up signing Jonathan Drouin for 2 years
Yep.
at $4 million.
There you go. He's gonna give you some nice help.
Oh my god. I didn't think he was coming here. I thought that Drouin was going to go to a contender like, Colorado or no, the Avalanche wanted him, but they couldn't afford him. Or maybe
Mhm.
like, another up and comer, maybe like Vancouver or something or Utah. I thought he would go to Utah. A lot of people went to Utah today, which is very shocking to me
Yeah.
at least.
They made some big time moves, and they haven't been sitting around either, which is good to see. That I mean, after they ended up doing the Paterka deal, that where I still think we got absolutely burned on it. They've made some big noise going on. I mean, they're not sitting there and being like the Arizona Coyotes of the past under old ownership, where you're like, oh, we're just gonna sit here and do nothing, kind of like what Kevin Adams does. It's basically Utah wants to win and they want to win now. And you know what? I'm glad they're doing it. They're gonna be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I will say, from my perspective as an Islander fan about the Drouin signing, I absolutely love this signing because the first. Listen, I bitched about the Islanders in the past, saying they were one of the worst scoring ratio teams in the NHL. Drouin has experience in doing this.
Mhm.
So to me, I'm not expecting him to be an all-star. I'm not expecting him to be a franchise caliber player. He
Yeah.
had that chance, but he blew it. And but I have already heard recently that Matthew Darsh wants him to be paired up with Bo Horvat.
Mhm. That actually, I could see that being a pretty good pairing.
I think so too. I mean, if you put him in the middle with Matt Barzell, then I think that would be beneficial to the Islanders, and that might even be the top line. I really don't know because the schedule does not come out till the 16th of July, but training camp doesn't come in until September.
Yeah.
So we're not going to know anything as far as like line combinations or any of that shit. We really won't know yet. But I feel like even as a whole, I feel like this year normally around this time, I feel like there's a sense of difference, like a different feel about the Islanders this year.
Mhm.
Because in the past, when Lou Lamoriello was the GM, it was everything was all in secret, and it was massive contracts, and then there was nepotism being thrown around. I was just not crazy about that. And I've expressed my desire about this. I remember this happened last summer when they brought in Anthony Duclair. No one
Mhm.
got any leaks from Lou Lamoriello. There was no secrecy. I love that the Islanders are involved in everything now because Matthew Darsh wants to make a statement on the team. And he's already made it clear that he's not making a commitment to 30-year-olds, unlike Lou, who sign long-term deals and then fuck the team over.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a big plus in your book. So there is actually one other move. I'm just thinking about it now. So the Sabres did do one other signing, and they ended up deciding, you know what? We're gonna go after Justin Danforth, and we signed him for 2 years, 3.6 million, and he actually finally hit 20 points with Columbus this past season, and with playing only in 61 games. So they're thinking possibly he could have a top six role, but he's not going to replace the production that Peterka had.
I was about to say, who the fuck is Justin Danforth?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's what
former
I was gonna
Columbus Blue
say.
Jacket.
That's not good, my guy. I mean, unfortunately, I did find out too that Mike Riley, who was one of the pairing defensemen on the Islanders last year, went to the Carolina Hurricanes for 1.1 million today for 1 year. So that's kind of
Mhm.
unfortunate. But that's not the only thing too that happened. There were some other free agent signings that happened in the process too. One being what did I say before? Corey Perry. He
Mhm.
signed a 1 year deal with the LA Kings for 2 million.
Yep. And then on top of it, I wonder how Rob's thinking about this deal because Ned is making his move over to the San Jose Sharks, and basically, yeah, Alex Nedeljkovic, goaltender, he was a backup for the Penguins. He's going out west, and then Pittsburgh gets the 2028 third round draft selection. So
Man, oh man, I can't imagine how that works. And that's not the only player. I mean, they also brought in John Klingberg and Adam Gaudette.
Yep. And then let's see, Vlasic ended up getting bought out, so 4 million on the book, which of course they were able to flip that and use it on Klingberg, which allowed them to still be under the floor, which kind of made no sense because they could have paid him one more year. But that being said, also Vitek Vanacek is going to the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, that too. That's another crazy deal that just so happened to happen. But you know what, too? I will mention is that Logan Stankoven, the guy, the main piece of the Mikko Rantanen trade, he
Mm-hmm.
got 8 years for $6 million with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah. And then on top of it, Matt Murray ended up going to Seattle. And then let's see, Michael Granlund's going to the Ducks. And on top of it, Evgeny Danilov is going to the New Jersey Devils.
Yep, and then Vladislav Gavrikov signed a 7x7 deal with the New York Rangers earlier today.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a biggie. Who else? Kaapo Kähkönen signed a 1 year, $1.15 million deal with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep. Yeah. And then on top of it, trying to think of some of the other big ones that ended up occurring today, but Yeah, we just had Gavrikov, so we talked about that. Marco Rossi got offer sheeted by the Minnesota Wild.
Wow. Wait, who did?
Marco Rossi. Basically, Bill Guerin ended up saying he's matching any team's offer sheet.
Interesting. Nico Sturm, speaking of the Wild, Nico Sturm signed a 2x2 deal with the Minnesota Wild today.
Yep. And then if you look at the players moving around, well, guess what? We had a coaching hire today too. So Glenn Golitzon was hired as the coach of the Dallas Stars, and that is after he spent 7 years as an assistant for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, he didn't do too well in Calgary when he was last time a head coach.
No, he didn't. So basically, what ended up happening, let's see, he's 146, 125, and 23 across 294 regular season games, and he's 0-4 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, yeah, he didn't really get better, Dallas.
No, he really didn't. But you mentioned earlier about the West Coast with Nico Sturm for the Wild. How about Mikael Granlund? Did you see that one?
That was a big deal.
Yep, it was a 3-year deal for $7 million with the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah.
Why Anaheim? That's what I don't understand.
That doesn't make sense.
Would you want to be competitive? I mean, I guess you got to give to get. At a certain point. You gotta do something about it. But who else is on this list? Tanner Pearson signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yep. And then just thinking about some of the other things. So Philip Tomasino is going to stay with the Penguins. Connor Dewar is going to stay there for another year. So Tomasino is $1.75 million. Dewar is getting 1.1. And then thinking about some of the other things, of course, you mentioned Jonathan Drouin earlier. So of course, that was a nice little deal. Defenseman Nick Perbix is going to be moving to Nashville, so he ended up signing a 2-year deal, $2.75 million annual value with the Predators, who previously played with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Interesting. But here's one for you. Jake Allen earlier today signed a 5-year deal with about $1.8 million with the New Jersey Devils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I know Rob is pretty pleased about that one.
Yeah. Yeah, the Panthers made a move today, too. They signed veteran defenseman Jeff Petrie to a 1-year, $775,000 minimum contract.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you caught this one earlier today, but Brian Lindgren, the former defenseman for the Colorado Avalanche, signed a 4-year, $4.5 million deal with the Seattle Kraken.
There you go. Yep. And then Sean Corelli ended up getting a 2-year, $1.85 million annual deal, so he is going to be playing with Boston. And then Thomas Nosek ended up he signed an extension, so he's gonna come back to the Panthers on a 1-year deal. And then you guys are gonna be bringing in Dave Rittich on a 1-year deal for goaltending depth.
Yes, I mentioned that earlier. And the only reason they're doing this is because Semyon Varlamov is most likely not going to be ready by the start of the season. So you need that little extra insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have no problem with this because David Bradennick is not going to be a flashy goalie by any means. He never has been. But, I remember his stint in Calgary where he was kind of the 1-year wonder bread. He was there, Andrew Hammond. Yeah. And then he went to the Kings. And then he, of course, went to the Islanders in general. But one signing we did not mention yet, which is very shocking to me, is Brandon Tanev signed a 3-year, $2.5 million deal with the Utah Mammoth.
Ooh, all right.
I don't know if you saw that one.
I didn't, but Utah's pulling out all the stops.
Well, it kind of makes sense because Utah has all this, money. So I should also mention too is the Mammoth went all in this year. They really did. I mean, they got Scott Perunovich from the New York Islanders, which I mentioned earlier today. They got Brandon Tanev, which I just mentioned a minute ago. They got Vitek Vanacek for 1 year, $1.5 million, which I know you already mentioned. Yep. But no, Utah's not sitting around. Utah, they want to be competitive, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, and it's good to see. And the last time I watched one of their games, ever since they moved out there, I mean, they've been a lot more competitive compared to the old owners, to the old Coyotes ownership. So it's good to see that the West is getting, even more competitive. And then on the Sabres end, Ryan Johnson's going to stay for another 3 years, $775,000 a year. So he got him for absolutely nothing. And then Patrick Kane is going to stay with the Red Wings for 1 more year, $3 million extension.
Yep, and the Sabres, speaking of them, They are also signing Carson Meyer for 2 years, a two-way deal, and he'll be making 775K. Who comes in from the Anaheim Ducks?
What the fuck was the point of that move?
Oh yeah, you think that's fucking bad? Listen to this one. Mason Geertsen. Yeah, you heard that guy? Mason Geert. Yeah.
No.
All right, good. Because you're about to see him now. Mason Geertsen signed a 2-year deal for two-way also as well for 775K to the Buffalo Sabres.
Who the fuck is he? Jesus Christ, Adams. Yeah, this is how we know the difference between Kekalainen, Ruff, and Adams. So Adams does these stupid bullshit deals, and Yarmo actually had the pretty decent draft. And Adams is wondering, oh, well, the media is too critical of me, and they're making fun of everything I do. Shut the fuck up, Adams. You've done nothing for 5 years. How the hell do you still have a job?
Yeah, really. Here's one for you. So Nick Perbix, who played for the Tampa Bay Lightning, is signing a 2-year deal worth about $2.75 million with the Nashville Predators.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so he's going to be joining his buddy Steven Stamkos in Nashville.
That'll be interesting to see what ends up happening there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You mentioned Justin Danforth earlier today.
Yep.
Here's one we did not mention. This one came out of left field for me, is I'm going to tell you what it is now. Lars Eller signed a 1-year, $1.25 million deal with the Ottawa Senators.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I did not see that one. This is my
Yeah.
first time seeing it.
Yeah. So, and actually the draft grades have come out. So, ESPN put out some draft grades, and Islanders were at the top of the list. They got an A+ rating. So,
I mean, unsurprising. I mean, when you turn something a big nothing into something, I think the term "when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade." I think that quote is perfect in this situation.
yeah.
You don't get James Higgins, but you walk away with 3 prospects in the first round. So I applaud the Islanders for that.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, scrolling through the list. Oh, yeah. The Buffalo Sabres. C+ in terms of the overall draft grade. Apparently, ESPN is saying that Buffalo had a modus operandi that was quite a bit different from previous drafts, and it showed. And they do like the Radim Murka pick, so they definitely like that. They thought, for some reason, they thought that the pick was a little bit higher than where Murka should have gone. But then the thing is, he was a huge need, so of course we had to take him. So I kind of disagree with that commentary on it a little bit. They also mentioned David Pikowski was a good selection as one of the most violent physical defenders in the draft, and if he makes it, he's going to fill a really good depth role and be a nightmare to play against. And that's pretty much how they left it. So, I mean, they didn't really give it anything horrible. They were at the top of the C grades. I mean, you want to know who the worst of the draft was?
The New York Rangers.
Actually, a lot of people said the Toronto Maple Leafs had a horrible draft. They were actually a D grade.
I heard the Penguins had a pretty abysmal draft.
Yeah, they weren't that great either, honestly. I mean, like, the Penguins didn't do well. Toronto did not do well at all. I mean, they didn't really... they ended up basically... The way that ESPN put it, it seems like the Maple Leafs hired one of the best talent evaluators in hockey, but then gave him an edict instead of letting him cook. And apparently Treliving wanted a lot of size, but the Leafs didn't get a lot of skill out of the draft. So basically with that, they said the way that ESPN put it is the Maple Leafs sucked ass.
Jesus Christ. But you know what? Something we have not addressed, and I feel like we should review all the deals, is so far leading up to the show, is all the trades that happened leading up to free agency. What do you say?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
All right, cool. So the first one is very small. So actually, I take that back. The one that we did not discuss yet is we're going to go back to the draft because that to me was a biggie. So I'm going to explain this trade to you. So the first big trade that really kicked things off was the one that took place at the draft, which was John Gibson got traded to the Detroit Red Wings from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Peter Mrazek, a 2027 second-round pick, and a 2026 fourth-round pick.
That was crazy when that happened because it's like, I know when Gibson was trying to hit the market more recently, it was just no one was willing to pay what he wanted.
No, and there were a couple of problems with John Gibson. The first one is he's a great goalie. I am not taking that away from him. But there's two issues. His age, his contract,
Mm-hmm.
and his history of injuries.
Yeah.
So that should really be three problems, not two.
Right. One, he wants too much money. Two, he's hurt all the time, so that's a problem. And then he's on the older side of 30.
Yeah, that's not a good idea in general. But
Ooh.
I do give Detroit the win just for the idea that it's John Gibson. And especially at this point now, his contract is much, much cheaper. And
Yeah.
the Red Wings have not had a stable goalie in their farm since what, Chris Osgood?
Yeah, they've been rotating. Well, besides Chris Osgood and even before that, Hasek, I mean, those were the last two stable goaltenders they had.
Yeah, so that's something.
That's going back a ways.
Oh yeah, for certain. The other trade that happened, this was 3 days ago, was Ilya Safonov. His KHL rights were traded to the Vancouver Canucks from the Chicago Blackhawks for future considerations.
They get nothing.
Okay, that's fair.
Gotta love that.
Absolutely. Okay, here we go. Here's the next trade. This is actually a sign and trade deal. This is one of the 1st of many. The first one is this. This is from 2 days ago. So Nick Hague, who played for the Vegas Golden Knights, is signing a 4-year deal worth about $5.5 million, and he was traded to the Nashville Predators in exchange for Jeremy Lauzon and Colton Sissons.
So, Jesus. Yeah, there's been some interesting ones that have come out, but how about the Vladimir Tarasenko trade where he got traded for future considerations?
Oh my God. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Vladimir Tarasenko, but at this stage, he's now just a journeyman.
Yeah. So he ends up getting traded to the Minnesota Wild by the Detroit Red Wings, and obviously it's only for future considerations. And here's the thing. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup winner. He only had 33 points for Detroit, so his production just really panned off. I mean, he only had 11 goals, 22 assists, and he's 33. He did play 80 games, so he actually was pretty healthy this season, but it's just one of those things where he's not who he was.
No, I mean, he's definitely not what he was when he was with the Blues. We'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and he won a cup with them in 2019, and then he won with the Panthers in 2024.
Yep. And we mentioned in the very beginning of the show is Mitch Marner. Yes, this was another sign and traded deal. So Mitch Marner was traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. He signed an 8-year, $12 million deal from the Vegas Golden Knights from the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Nicholas Watt.
Vegas got a good player in Marner on that one. I mean, I still think it's a little bit, $12 million a year. I mean, that's up there. I have a little trouble with the average annual value, but Toronto took a pretty big loss by losing him.
Yeah, put it this way too. Remember how Leafs fans were mocking the Islanders fans for many, many years when John Tavares left? Yeah, now this is going to happen to them with Mitch Marner, and they're going to call him a liar, a traitor, a snake. They're going to call him everything in the book. And I went through this shit, so I know what it's like.
Right. Yeah, so Toronto extends Tavares for 4 years. They get rid of Mitch Marner, who definitely had more upside. And yet now Vegas is just adding more and more players. I mean, now Vegas's draft wasn't that great, but they're doing a lot on the free agency side, and they're using all of the available cap that they can.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, Vegas, they're just loading up for another cup. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's either cup or go home is the way they look at it.
Well, I mean, Vegas already won a Stanley Cup, and they're not even 10 years old yet.
Yeah, they won a cup in year 5, so...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's year 6, but whatever. We already talked about Brad Marchand. He signed a 6-year deal worth about $5.25 million, but we already talked about that. But the next trade was the one between the Canadiens and the Hurricanes. I don't know if you caught this one. So Caden Primo got traded from the Montreal Canadiens to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for a 2026 7th-round pick.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, and they gave him a 1-year minor league deal. So it's like you made that trade for what purpose?
Yeah, that there really wasn't a purpose there.
No, there wasn't. So the next trade, this one happened today, and that was is that the Edmonton Oilers have traded forward Victor Arvidsson to the Boston Bruins in exchange for a 2027 fifth round pick.
Okay, so Boston gets a little bit of depth. Not crazy about it, but
Yeah, you're just like, nah, it's okay.
yeah, I've seen worse.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get to that. Don't worry about it. The next trade that took place also today happened as well. This one threw me by surprise. Was the Montreal Canadiens have traded defenseman Logan Mailloux to the St. Louis Blues in exchange for forward Bolduc.
Okay, so that was a little surprising. Didn't expect that.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, why did the Canadiens trade Logan Mailloux? Were they that much in love with Zach Bolduc?
Yeah, that's a good question there because I'm wondering about some of the logic on some of these trades.
Yeah, me too. But speaking of logic, because we already know this one's not going to make any fucking sense,
Right.
because it's whatever. So this trade happened today as well, around the same time as the St. Louis deal, and this one I kind of had a feeling it was going to happen. Was Sam Laverty was traded from the Buffalo Sabres to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for a 2026 sixth-round pick. Sabres fan, take it away.
Adams, you fucking suck. There was no reason to trade Lafferty. None. No reason. And instead, you trade him for a sixth?
Oh my
What's the
God.
matter with you?
A lot, actually, a lot.
Yeah,
Oh my
that
God.
was absolutely beyond stupid. So,
It was stupid. But
yeah.
you're really like fuck this team. Fuck everything they do.
I really have to wonder what Adams is thinking in certain cases because literally he comes here, he was signed as a free agent, and then we get rid of him for a sixth round pick. It's like seriously, what the hell? But I mean, he played in 60 games. I mean, okay. Well, here's the actual stats. So 60 games played last season, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. He actually did have a minus 15 rating, so I mean, it wasn't really a big year of production for him by any means. But then looking at his career, so he's played 349 NHL games, 40 goals, 50 assists, 90 points. Take a guess at the plus minus rating for him.
I'm not sure what.
It's a minus 39.
Oh my God.
So, depth piece, okay. One of your primary top 6, hell no.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But I would have kept him for cheap just for depth, but
It's it's crazy.
yeah.
So moving on. This trade happened 4 hours ago. Leading up to tonight's final show as Buffalo After Dark is a deal between the Sharks and the Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins have decided to trade goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for a 2028 third-round pick.
Wonder how Rob's liking that right now. Honestly, I mean, Nedeljkovic, I mean, he bailed out Pittsburgh several times actually during the season. And he actually was a starter for quite a bit. Actually, we saw him play in Vancouver when we were out there this past October because, of course, Pittsburgh's goaltending sucked ass. So we ended up seeing Nedeljkovic come in and basically stop the hemorrhaging that the Pittsburgh Penguins had after, what was it, Vancouver scored like 4 straight in the second period or something like that within like 10 minutes or something crazy.
It was something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they had like an offensive tear that night. So... But Mike Grier's got to do better on the goaltending side because right now it's like with San Jose, I get he's trying to rebuild. He's trying to do a lot of stuff, but that goaltending rate is That return, I mean, not great. Sure, it'll give the Sharks some stability, but yeah, not
Yeah,
exactly the best. Not exactly the best move, I think.
I think it's funny how Ned was once considered a superstar goaltender on the Hurricanes, and then I think it was no, it wasn't Francis. It was who the fuck was the GM? I'm trying to remember. Who the fuck was the GM for the Canes when when Ned was there?
Well, I know Ron Francis was there for a while, but I'm almost thinking if that was before or after.
Yeah, because Iserman got him, and John is asking, yes, we're still alive.
Yep.
But-
So
Yeah, but in any way, so no, this trade doesn't make any sense for San Jose. I mean, unless you desperately need a goalie in your AHL system, then fine, whatever. Who gives a shit? But I think the biggest trade, aside Marner, because that already happened yesterday, the biggest trade that happened today was the deal between the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers. Do you see this one?
Mhm. Oh, and I did just find out the answer to the question. Actually, Ron Francis was the GM when Nedeljkovic was drafted.
Oh my God, what a fuck up that was.
2014.
Jesus Christ! But wait, Ned wasn't on the Canes though at that time.
Yeah, well, apparently, Francis was the GM though when he did get drafted though. So
All right, fair enough. And look who it is. It's Mr. Chime Blaine from Around the Ropes. What's going on, boss?
Nothing. How you guys been?
hey,
We're doing great.
Doing good. We're just talking about some of the trades. We've already gone over an hour just talking about the draft and free agency, and now some of the trades before we jump into the football stuff.
I'm glad I was able to join. I just wrapped up doing my show a few minutes ago.
Yeah, congrats on getting picked up, by the way, too. Good to see that getting bigger.
Thank you. Believe me, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but believe me, it pays off, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. We might have to carry your show on our channel here too. So of course, if anyone wants to check him out, feel free to go to his YouTube.
Absolutely. At Around the Horn. I mean, Around the Ropes. Sorry.
Yeah.
My mistake. But yeah, so we're just getting down to the last trade that happened at the free agency frenzy, or at least the start of it, was the one that took place between the Rangers and the Hurricanes. I don't know if you saw this, Mr. Blaine, but Keandre Miller was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes today.
I did see that. I can't figure out what the Rangers are doing right now, to be honest, because I feel like they've had some years where I feel like they're all in it, pushing, to win that trophy. And then there's years that they're doing this.
It doesn't
again-
make sense.
Yeah.
But again, it's the Rangers. James Dolan is their owner. Are we surprised?
Dolan's a moron. Straight up. He likes to be way too involved.
Yep. So after the trade, Keandre Miller signed a 8-year deal worth about $7.5 million. It was a sign and trade deal. And in return, the New York Rangers got defenseman Scott Morrow, yes, the son of Brendan Morrow, a 2026 conditional first-round pick, which is going to be between the higher of the two picks between the Hurricanes and the Stars, and they're also getting a conditional second-round pick in 2026.
It seems like they got a good haul back, but again, is this going to truly help them? That's my question.
For the Rangers, if everything goes well, I guess we'll see. But either way, and what's really interesting about this trade is this is the pick that the Hurricanes got from Mikko Rantanen.
Mhm.
So they basically flipped Mikko Rantanen into Keandre Miller.
I was like, some teams know what they're doing, and they're clearly one of them.
By actually knowing what they're doing, you mean they choke in the playoffs every April.
I was being nice.
It's all good.
What?
Hey,
Fuck
remember
Carolina.
we don't have to be nice to people on this show.
Yeah, I get that memo real quick.
Yeah, that's why apparently we go against the whole thing about the Sabres front office criticizing the fact that TV is being way too critical of us. Well, it's like, well, you haven't seen what we've pulled on this show yet.
Believe me, I'll just take it from the world of wrestling here for a second.
Yeah.
You want to talk about somebody being critical? Just go watch what I do, and there's been times where I'm not going to say specifically on what company, but if you're a wrestling fan, you kind of know what company I'm referring to here.
Mhm.
There's been times where I've had items getting thrown.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I actually had a chance to finally listen to your show too, which you guys have some good stuff going on there. So,
Thank you.
I mean, it's yeah, you guys don't pull any punches, and even like one other big channel I've followed for a long time, and you might know about this, Joe Cronin, and actually, I am one of the cast of characters on there that donates every so often. So,
Yeah, but that's what makes good radio, though. Tom, sorry to cut you off for a second, but that's what
yeah,
makes good radio is somebody who's willing to take it to the edge, who's willing to, who I believe me, I've been doing this I've been doing this since August 2011.
mhm,
I've seen my fair share of shows where they are so much trying to get trying to be on their good side.
yeah, and it's like the kiss ass stuff just doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I got a real funny story I can tell you. I
Yeah.
used to do a show back in the day when I went to school in York, PA.
Mhm.
That South Central PA. Was doing a sports show with a guy who's a diehard Baltimore fan. And I mean, he was a Baltimore Orioles fan, Ravens fan, Wizards fan, the whole 9 yards. The entire show, he basically turned around and played it off that the Orioles were going to go 162-0, the Ravens were going to go perfect, the Wizards were going to go perfect. And I'm like, you're living in a fantasy world. That's not how it is.
Right. Exactly. And there's truth to that too. I mean, it's one of those things. I remember when we first started this show 5 years ago, and we've done others prior to that. One of the first things we said is we're not going to be kiss asses to any sports team whatsoever. We're just going to say what we think from a fan point of view, and if you don't like it, too bad. And that's just how it is. And then kind of thinking about it in that sense, for Adams criticizing the local media and TV for being too critical, it's like, fuck you, Adams. It's like, you're a GM. You've done nothing to improve this team in 5 years. And it's kind of like, and I think I know what company you're talking about because I do like to follow wrestling as well. And I know exactly where you're going because it's one that signed with a big mixed martial arts promotion, which there was a lot of issues with their storytelling and their writing, and especially when you look at creative, I mean, it's unwatchable in many cases.
So I'll put it this way. I'm of the mentality, obviously, living in New York my entire life, I've listened to WFAN
Mhm.
basically my entire life. And my philosophy has always been, if a team is doing good, I give them all the credit in the world.
Mhm.
But when a team starts to stink, and unfortunately that's been most of New York sports for the better part of the last 30 years, I'm not going to sit there and start bitching and complaining. I'm just going to sit there and be like, look, here's how you can change.
Mhm. Right.
Prime example with the Knicks. I've been saying it for years. Dolan needs to sell the team. I've been saying it for years.
Right. Yeah. He has too much of an influence on him.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, and I think I know where you're going with this, and I may be wrong here, but to fire Tom Thibodeau as the head coach of the Knicks when he got him into right before the finals, you get into the semis, you lose to Indiana, and then Indiana goes on to lose in Game 7 against Oklahoma City. But to fire Thibodeau, getting that deep in the playoffs, now, yes, he could have used his bench better, but you don't fire a coach that gets your team into the playoffs every single year, especially when they've been actually doing okay with some of the drafting. And now, no one wants to coach the Knicks because they still don't have a head coach.
I'll put it this way. With me, the whole thing with Tom Thibodeau, I think he was with the Knicks for 5 seasons, I think, or 6, something like that.
I was thinking it's either 5 or 6. I'm not entirely sure, but
Every year they've gotten better. Every year they've improved. And he got you within 1 game or maybe 2 games of making it to the finals, which this organization has not made it to the finals since 1973.
right.
Was
And
the last time they made the finals.
yeah, and they haven't had deep playoff runs since Pat Riley, and that's going back a ways.
Not only that, the last time they had a run that was a good one, go back to 2012, right after Hurricane Sandy.
Mhm.
And it was I call it the AARP Knicks because that was the days of Jason Kidd, Jerry Stackhouse, and all of them.
Yeah,
They
the
had a run there.
geriatrics on the team.
But then the problem is they got into the second round with Miami. Amari Stoudemire went to go punch his hand through a fire extinguisher,
Hmm.
and it. So to me, I don't understand. And when Dolan turned around and said, "Oh, we gotta have a guy in here who knows what they're doing. It could be a good voice." I'm sorry, and the guy who's been with your team for the last 5 years wasn't good enough.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it makes me wonder what is Dolan thinking, like seriously, with how he operates his team. And quite honestly, now it's like nobody wants to coach the Knicks. I mean, they burned all the bridges, and it's obviously what's going to happen. My thought. The fact that they fired Thibodeau, either they're going to have to bring him back, but they're going to have to pay him a shitload more money to even want to come back and do a big ass mea culpa in front of everybody, or they're going to get some coach that's never had the opportunity to be a head coach, and they're going to suck.
Honestly, I'm going to be honest, and I'm sorry for derailing everything.
No,
but
this is good.
But I look at it this way: if I'm Tom Thibodeau, do I really want to come back to the Knicks after they just
I wouldn't.
fired you? After they just fired you and you got them within two wins of an NBA Finals, would I really? If all of a sudden Dolan turned around to me, let's say I'm Tom Thibodeau, and Dolan called me and said, "Hey, look, we screwed up. We want you to come back." I would turn around and say, "Click, hang up."
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, you burned the bridge, so it's your problem now.
I look at it this way because who's to say you bring him back? Who's to say he doesn't do it again?
Exactly. And Dolan has a bad history with that.
Exactly. So that's why to me, and I forgot who I was talking about this. If you guys remember years ago, there was the owner of the Clippers who everybody was an uproar about for them to sell the team. Sterling.
Oh yeah, Don Sterling.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Oh yeah, the NBA basically forced the Clippers to sell because they were talking about like a lot of racist issues and different things at the time.
I look this way. I hope the NBA and if somebody from the NBA higher ups is watching this, do that to the Knicks, please. Force Dolan to please sell this team. The problem is he won't because they make them a crap ton of money. So this is my message to Knicks fans. If you guys want Dolan to sell this team, don't show up to games.
Exactly.
Don't sell out the Garden when they're playing a crappy team like, San Antonio.
Right. 100%. In fact, now, and this is actually coming out of Sports Illustrated, but apparently the front runner is Mike Brown, the former Sacramento Kings coach, to replace Thibodeau.
But honestly, if I'm anybody, would I want to come into this organization knowing that they just fired the guy? And I go back to what I said a few minutes ago. It doesn't matter who I am. If I'm Mike Brown, the guy, what's his face? Oh, the guy who was the coach in for Golden State before Steve Kerr took over.
I have no idea. Basketball's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I'd have to look back. I don't remember because I know Kerr's been there for
Mark
a while.
Jackson.
Okay, I was almost thinking back even further. I know Carlissimo was a coach for the Warriors for a while, and then
yes,
of course I remember the whole Latrell Sprewell incident where he choked him out.
But my thing is this though: doesn't matter who I am. Do I want to come to a team that had a coach who was here for 5 years? Got us to a conference finals and got shown the door. But I mean, look at it this way. It's not the first time we've seen this. Bring it back to hockey for a second. The year the Capitals won it all.
Right.
Yes.
And look what happened right after.
Well, no, that situation was a little different because the Caps did not want to pay Barry Trotz what he was owed. That's how the Islanders got him. Because the Capitals refused to pay him what he wanted. It's not because they want the cup, you're fired. It was because he was a free agent and he wanted a new deal. And the Caps said, no, we're not giving you more than what you already owed.
Which, again, that makes no sense because to me, if you're a team like the Capitals and that was your first Stanley Cup win, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, they're first and only.
Yeah.
You're gonna to me if I have a coach who brings my team to win a World Series trophy or Stanley Cup, whatever, and it's my first and it's the organization's first one, I turn around to the coach and go, okay, here's a blank check. You just got us to the promised land. You tell us what you want us to pay you. But again, I'm different like that.
Yeah. And anybody who listens to the show knows how I feel about that whole Barry Trotz situation.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that before. We have definitely talked about that before. But no, it's interesting too because thinking about Mike Brown, I mean, when he was brought into the Sacramento Kings, and we'll get into football in just a little bit here, but thinking about Mike Brown, he actually did change the culture in Sacramento. He did snap the 17-year playoff drought that the Kings had in 2023. But then their owner, Vivek Ranadiv, is a lot like James Dolan. He has a very quick trigger, and basically what happened, they had a losing streak that went like, I think like 8 games, 10 games, something like that in a row, and he's like, "Nope, you're done. I don't care that you got us to the playoffs the season before."
Yeah, but also here's the funny thing though. I'm surprised that Dolan did this also with the New York media because when it comes to like Sacramento, for example, I don't think they're gonna have the same pressure from the media
No, they
in
definitely
an
won't.
area like Sacramento.
Yeah, they definitely won't. Even the Bay Area itself, I mean, they're not going to have like the same pressure that you have in New York City there. I mean, the New York media and the Toronto media are brutal.
Well, they always say, well, how many times have we seen guys play for any of the New York teams who had better careers outside of New York?
Yeah, a lot of them. A lot of
I mean,
them.
we could literally, if you guys, we could do a whole episode just on that.
Yeah, literally, we could go an hour and a half and just talk about some of those things. But no, it's just it's a good point that we bring up, and it kind of ties it back to where we're the anti-kiss ass show here. I mean, we say it like it is. If they're playing well, hey, we'll say they're playing well. If they're not, I mean, we as fans, we have no ties to the organization other than we're fans. We have every right to criticize them how we feel, and we have every right to exercise our opinion. And that's one of those things with all of us here. And of course, if anyone doesn't like that, we like to be a little colorful sometimes and use some choice words, including the seven prohibited words on regular terrestrial media. We do have that warning at the beginning of the show that says viewer discretion is advised, and this show is not for children.
But I also look this way: we're all three of us are from New York.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
as New Yorkers, it's kind of embedded in us that we have to be critical. I mean, you look at it again. I'm going to go back to the world of pro wrestling for a
Yeah.
second. They always talk about New York being one of the toughest crowds.
Mhm.
You talk about when they do shows up in Albany or in New York City. When they do them at the Garden or out on Long Island, those are always the toughest crowds because fans of New York, I've come to the realization, have a high expectation.
Mhm. They do.
And unless you're the Yankees, who, I mean, let's be honest, Yankee fans are like Dallas Cowboy fans. They rely on the 90s way too much.
Right. Oh yeah. Actually, here's an idea next season, Bobby. Get Millman on the show. Have John on the show. Oh, that'll be fun.
Oh my God.
He is a big time Dallas fan.
So Millman, my buddy Chris Millman, who I worked with for the past like 13 years, just to give you an idea, is a behemoth Dallas Cowboys fan. He was actually at our draft special for the NFL back in April. That was some of the funniest shit.
And he's
That
actually on our Road to 32 episode when they were up in my neck of the woods, and we went to the game in it was last December when the Bills totally destroyed the Cowboys in the rain.
I'll put it this way. You guys set it up. I would say both of you guys just lay out and just let us go at it.
Let's do it. Let's do it next season. So yeah, we'll definitely do that. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, New York's a tough crowd, and I mean, your show says it like it is. I mean, Cronin's another example that says it like it is, and he's not afraid to come out and give some good ideas either too. I've actually gotten to know him over the last like 10+ years, and actually it's kind of funny because I go by an alias on that show. I don't use my real name on there, but it is something where I think I'm like in the top 15 or 20 of all-time donations on that show.
But it's like I said before, though.
So
When it comes to shows, and obviously you guys are like that, we're like that. It's the shows that are going to make it. I mean, I'll put it this way. Great point here. And then obviously we can move on from here. Look at somebody like Howard Stern. Look at somebody like Opie Anthony back in the day.
oh yeah,
You were talking about guys who pushed the envelope,
they did.
and look at how big they got.
Yeah, and they made no apologies for doing it, and you know what, and that's the good thing.
And I don't make any apologies for anything we say on our show, because to me, yes, we're fans. That's all we are. And it's the same thing here. We're just fans.
Yeah.
We're just lucky enough to have a platform.
Right, exactly. And you look at 10, 15 years ago, like these shows like ours, there's no way these were really around at the time. I mean, and you're seeing more and more of that fan-based media come up because fans want an alternative to the corporate shills that are out there.
And that's half the thing, though. Is you get these shows that you know damn well the hosts are trying to butter themselves up because they think, oh, if I talk nice about this promotion, or I talk nice about this team, maybe they'll get let me come cover them. And I'm like, no, they're not.
Yeah. It's like I know the Sabres ain't gonna come to me to help cover anything because I'm gonna be so critical of them.
I mean, I left quick side story. Then obviously,
Yeah.
I know I keep saying that.
Yeah, no,
I
it's good.
I applied, was it a couple of years ago, for a job with WWE
Mhm.
back in, and I went for the job interview, the whole 9 yards.
You get to see the corporate office in Greenwich?
No,
Or
I
Stamford, I mean?
unfortunately, yeah, it's a little too far for me for that one. So did the interview, the whole 9 yards. The guy asked me to send him writing samples because he used to write for a few websites back in the day.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I sent him some of my articles, and I looked at the articles. I'm like, why did I send him? Because it was all the articles where I bashed the team, sort of the
Yeah.
organization, and I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work out well.
Right. Well, and Bobby knows this. I don't think you do, but I actually interviewed with the Buffalo Sabres a while back for a position in the front office, and I didn't get the nod to go forward. And I think part of it, I would have cost too much because it would have, like, after looking at it, it would have been probably about a $20,000 pay cut, which I'm not going to take. And then on top of it, I think part of it, even though they were nice and I had no issue with them, it just knowing that I'm critical, I think that's part of it too. So,
Don't lie. Tell them what you actually said.
oh, when the front office called and asked if I wanted season tickets, I said their product fucking sucks.
Guys, unfortunately, I actually got to bounce. I got to go take care of some stuff. But I just want to say, guys, I know tonight's the last show under this brand that you guys have, and I'm glad to be a part of the new relaunch.
Yep.
And Tom, we will definitely talk because I think it'd be definitely interesting to have our show Around the Ropes
Yeah, definitely.
under the same banner with you guys. I think it would definitely be interesting and something that I think, because we always talk about on our show, there's a lot of times you'll get sports fans who are wrestling fans.
Yeah, absolutely, and there is a lot of crossover there, and I've seen that. So definitely, it's going to be fun to talk with you more, and of course, we're glad to have you here going forward with the relaunch also, and certainly it's going to be one of those things. I'll be checking out more of your stuff, and who knows, maybe we get you and your co-host on here more often too. And well, I know you'll be here with us, but yeah, maybe we get your co-host on here too, and maybe we do some crossover and talk a little bit of wrestling and throw it into the content, and of course we feature the show. So yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Absolutely, guys. Again, congrats on this show, and can't wait for the relaunch.
All right, sounds good.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
All right, talk to
We
you guys soon.
appreciate it. No problem. All right.
Now that we got that out of the way, I do appreciate John with the words. God, you two are like.
No, it's kind of funny, like how it went, because I'm like, I didn't expect that we were talking a half hour on the NBA and wrestling, but it's all good.
Really.
But hey, it's fun. I mean, one of the things with this show over time, people have never come to know what to expect with what we're gonna come up with.
I would think that, yeah. But we'll see what the future holds because there is a lot to do moving forward and there's a lot to re-energize on. But now that we actually got that out of our system.
Yeah. You want to hit the football stuff before we hit our good moments?
Yes, let's do that.
All right.
So, in case if anybody's been living under a rock, the Dolphins and the Steelers probably just pulled off one of the biggest blunders of a trade.
Hey, yeah. I wonder how Rob's liking this because, Jalen Ramsey got sent to the Steelers.
Well, yeah. So, for those of you who don't know out there, I'm sure most of us have heard by now, it's Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith and a 2027 7th round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Miami Dolphins, in exchange, are getting Minka Fitzpatrick and a 2027 5th round pick.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Well, Miami is not going to be making the playoffs anytime soon. I'll tell them
That's
that. And then they want to talk all the shit in the world about how they're better than the Bills. They're not even close.
No, and you know what's even funnier? You see with the cherry on top of all this?
Yeah, it was absolutely disgusting, too.
Yeah. So the talk of the town was the Dolphins needed a new tight end after trading Jonnu Smith. And it's like, oh, what are the options? Are you going to get Kyle Pitts? Are you going to get Michael Mayer from the Raiders because Brock Bowers pretty much took his job? And then speculation started to come and go. And then in the middle of the day, right around the same time frame as when all these trades came in this morning for the NHL, was the trade that had every saying to ourselves, what the fuck is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Darren Waller decides to unretire after one season of not playing football, and Ian Rappaport has told everybody that Darren Waller was traded to the Miami Dolphins.
Welcome back to the league. Oh, God, that sucks to be him right now.
Oh my God. Imagine saying, nah, I'm never playing again. 1 year later, you unretire just to play for the Dolphins.
Oh, God.
No, this whole thing doesn't even make any sense because it's like you trade Jalen Ramsey, you trade Jonnu Smith. Okay, fine, whatever. Pittsburgh gets new players.
Right.
Then you get Minka Fitzpatrick back, which he hasn't really been the same in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I don't understand this trade. This trade doesn't even make any sense. It's like you get Minka Fitzpatrick, and then you get a fifth rounder in return, and then you replace Jonnu Smith for a guy who retired not even a year ago.
Oh, Miami is... Well, I would say the Jets are stupid, which obviously we know that, but the Dolphins are stupid.
Oh my God. I don't even know what the Dolphins are trying to do. Okay, you know that meme of Anthony Sullivan with that shit that where he's splattering on the wall and it
Yeah.
sticks? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I found one meme that actually summons the Miami Dolphins. So the meme goes something like this. Team is falling apart, right? It says Dolphins are falling apart. Darren Waller.
Oh, God. It's... Oy.
I don't understand the trade. I don't understand this trade at all.
Yeah.
I truly don't understand.
It really does not make sense. Oy.
Oh my God. And that's horrible on its own.
Yeah, it is. So Miami went backwards, not forwards, and who knows? Maybe Mike McDaniel ended up getting into Aaron Rodgers' ayahuasca stash and maybe got like some skank weed or something.
Jesus Christ. I mean, that was bad enough, but oh my God. I mean, imagine digging that shit. Oh, and you want to know something else too? Because we're
Mhm.
talking about the Dolphins. There was something else that came out about the Dolphins, and it just so happens to be from Raheem Mostert.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
What's he up to now?
So Raheem Mostert, because he signed with the Raiders,
Yep.
he blasted the Dolphins front office after trading Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. He
Mhm.
said, quote, hot take, be a Pro Bowler on the Dolphins, get treated like shit. Happy for my guys, though. Go Bowl out. And Mostert was named to the Pro Bowl in 2023 while he was with the Dolphins, and he
Mhm.
was released in February, and he then signed with the Raiders.
Ooh, still a little salty.
Well, yeah. So it's like you trade two guys. Like I understand that Jalen Ramsey wanted out, but
Yeah.
oh my God. Like I knew the Steelers wanted Jonnu Smith also, but there was mixed like reviews or not reviews. There were mixed rumors about Jalen Ramsey that he was going to go back to the Rams, but no, that didn't happen.
Yeah, that didn't happen at all. And instead, yeah, good luck Miami, because obviously the Bills are still your daddy no matter what. Josh Allen is still Tua's daddy. Tua's probably one concussion away from being dead on the field, and let's just say they still talk a lot of shit and don't back it up.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill does a lot of that too for the Dolphins.
Yeah. And Tyreek Hill, yeah, you were better on the Chiefs, because guess what? You actually would have won more rings had you stayed there.
Well, he chose not to do that, so there's that.
Yep, exactly. So, with that being said, you know what? We still got 20 minutes. We can talk about some of the best moments from the show and some of the things we've done over the last 5 years. And there's been a lot. And of course, I mean, we've had a lot of co-hosts here that have been part of our show for the time that we were here. And of course, for people that remember going all the way back to season 1, of course, it was the two of us. We had Adam, who is also known as Luffy. He was with us for a lot of the time, and I know he had some time commitments that came up, which is why he hasn't been here as often. We've had Rob Hazu on and off. We've also had Andy on and off as well. I know his work situation is a little different now. Julian was with us for a bit. Of
And then we
course,
had,
Bubba Matt was
Sean.
here. Yeah, Sean was here for a bit, which I know he's relaunching his own stuff, and we even looked at having him return too, and he decided he wanted to just kind of focus on his own stuff, which is totally fine. So, you know, first and foremost, I know with those guys, we do want to say thank you to them because they were a part of the show over the 5 years, whether they were with us the entire time or for parts of it or so forth. So, you know, that's definitely one thing we want to thank them. Then of course our friend Trevor Hauer, who is here. He's got a gig with the big boys now, so he's got a new radio job full time. So congrats to him, and you know, we appreciate him having come on as well, and certainly we had some great shows with him too. So of course, if you're in the Buffalo area, check him out on of course the well-known stations, and you'll find them. But no, we just wanted to acknowledge them first, because even though those guys were not with us the entire time, the great thing is that they were a big part of getting this show to where it is. So we appreciate that. And then of course, looking forward, I mean, we've got some great new things coming around. So it's John's going to be one of the new guys joining us, and certainly we're happy to expand with him. And you know, just so we wanted to acknowledge that first. And then thinking back, there's a lot of good moments from this show. So let's see, what's one of the best ones you can think of?
One of the best moments that we've done, I definitely love the rants from the first 2 seasons of the show. The one about Craig Anderson, which that was an episode you were not in, but
Right, I
that
remember because I think I had like some other thing going on that night, and I remember it was you and Andy that were part of that.
Yeah, and then I was like, all right, guys, let's just do free HC, whatever. And then Craig Anderson comes through. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? And I remember I love that, honestly. I love that shit.
And that was like, and wasn't that like towards the end of the episode? Because I remember it was you, Andy, and I think Sean was on there too, and he was just laughing his ass off about it.
Yeah, and I just remember Sean going, oh boy. Just like
Right.
that, covering his mouth. And I'm just like standing there, and I'm thinking, and I'm saying to myself, oh my God, Andy's going to freak out.
Yeah, and then he went off about Aaron Dell, I think, the same night or in the same episode or right around there. It was like the 2 signings or something.
Yeah, it was Aradell and Craig Anderson.
Yeah.
Those were the 2 signings. And then I want to say one of the funny ones that I love that's extremely underrated was Adam's rant about Sam Darnold when he got traded to the
Yeah,
Panthers
that
a
was
few years
good.
ago.
That was good.
Yeah, I love that one. He's like, I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Right. Yeah, and the funny thing is, talking about Craig Anderson, I actually have a signed final game autograph from him. I was one of only, I think, 6. I was able to get a signed 7 by 11 or 8.5 by 11. So yeah, I got that framed on my wall, sitting just to the left of my computer screen here.
There you go.
So yeah, I would say funny moment. I want to say I think it was in season 2. Remember the unibrow?
Oh my God.
And I had your ass laughing, and then basically it was a way that we got rid of one of our former guests on here that we don't talk to anymore, and he's not
Brian
even doing.
Coghill.
Yeah, I don't even think he does sports podcasting anymore, honestly. But it was like one of those things. Like I remember you, Sean, and Trevor. They were like, "Holy crap! Nobody expected that."
Yeah, and you were just like, Brian was like boring you and all that shit, and I'm just remember saying to myself,
Yeah,
oh my God.
he's the only person that ever put me to sleep on this show.
Yeah, I
Like,
remember that.
literally, he's the only one I have ever fallen asleep with on the show. And I'm not speaking bad about him, but that's the only time I ever fell asleep was when he was on.
I remember that, and I remember saying to you, like, dude, we got to get rid of this guy. And
Yeah.
sure enough, we got rid of him.
We sent him packing after the unibrow.
Yeah, remember that one time? I think it was
That's
one
our
of
way
his-
of firing him.
Oh yeah, remember that one year? I think it was season 1 where it was really bad controls. Like it was like really bad camera angles, or something was up. I was like behind, and it was you, me, Adam, and Sean, the 4 of us in season 1 for our Christmas special,
Mhm.
and. I take a bowl of the Bon Beyond Insanity hot sauce and I
Oh, yeah.
shut that fucker down. And I was like, ah!
Yep. Yeah. Then we had Battle Vindaloo, the first one, where your face turned purple
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
after we
There was
both
a,
lost a bet.
yeah, and I think there was a moment too where we, what was the one? I'm looking back at some of the older shit that we did. Oh my god! I think it was Vindaloo Challenge number 2, where it was you, me, and Rob, the 3 of us together,
Mhm.
and you challenged me. I forget what the bet was. Oh, I remember. It was you betted with me that if Osiris Torrance made it to the first round, you would eat the Vindaloo.
Yeah.
And yet, when I did, like, if I was wrong, I would have to eat. But the Bills
Right.
still got him.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, he still got him. And then this time you were ready for the Vindaloo because it didn't like burn your face or anything.
Yeah, because I knew smarting up at that point.
Right. I'm trying to think of some other really funny moments. I mean, we did have Julian inaugurate that new bottle of whiskey that he cracked open on the air for the first time, so we had that.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had some funny. Oh, remember when Adam and Hatch were going at it?
Oh my god, I remember that.
About him questioning his Bills fanhood.
And we were just tearing him a new asshole at that point.
Yeah, that was a good episode. That was a funny moment for sure.
You know what's another one I just thought about? Remember my insane fucked up comments I used to say? Like the one, I think the most famous one that really got under people's skin was a few years ago. I think it was our 3rd season. We talked about Rick Jenneret when he was on his tour, when he was going to retire.
Oh yeah.
And in the middle of the conversation, I'm like, well, that's unfortunate. He's going to die eventually. And everybody just gave me shit for it.
Oh yeah, we all did. and basically, I think Andy was like, I know he was ripping you a new one off of that.
Yeah, he's like, how dare you talk about RJ like that?
Yeah, and then unfortunately he did pass away more recently within the last 2 years, but it's one of those where when that did happen, I know that there was a lot of people, a lot of Sabres fans that actually went down to the arena and paid their respects. I was actually one of them myself. I actually drove down there. I think it was like the 3rd day after that happened, and I did get to see what Rick Jenneret drove. He drove a Lincoln SUV, so and I actually have a picture of that still when I waited outside at a local Wegmans to try and get some stuff signed, and unfortunately there wasn't enough time for everybody to get in, but no, I remember that one for sure. And then trying to think some other good moments. Well, we have the Swedish media incident. That'll always go down as one of our most historic moments of how we got Housley fired a week later.
Fire Housley!
Yeah, and then Harrington had a picture of you on Twitter at the time, and then the Swedish media woman was asking to get a picture of you also.
Should we tell the story one more time before we move?
Yeah, we might as well. It's always a good story, but yeah. So we were down at the old barn in Uniondale, down in his neck of the woods. My one and only time in the old Coliseum, and it was funny because I went down there for a Sabres game, and they were playing the Islanders, and of course the Islanders ended up smoking the Sabres at I think it was like 8-1 or something, or 6-1 or 8-1
it
or
was
something like that.
6-2. But I remember it was you, me, and Brittany at that time, and
Yeah.
it was
my
your
first time down there.
Yeah, you came down to me and I said, "Yo, we should go to an Islander Sabres game together."
Yeah,
and
it was in 2019. I flew in, and ever since then I drive down there now for the most part. But Yeah, which I've been down there a couple times since. But yeah, that was the time I ended up flying in and stayed right near you at the time, and then of course we ended up going to that game. And one of the big things that we thought would be hilarious is the Fire Housley poster, which you ended up doing, and we still have a picture of that somewhere actually.
Of course I
But
do.
yeah, which yeah, Housley was pissed off because eventually it did get confiscated by the ushers.
And Jack Eichel was pissed off because they made a comment about it.
Yeah, and of course we saw him slam the box door a few times. He was not happy, to say the least.
Well, I think we got his attention for the wrong reasons at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite moments about that story was when you, me, and Britt were walking around the perimeter of the Coliseum.
Yeah, that was great.
I'll never forget this. And we're literally walking around the perimeter, and I think it was the end of the first mission, the end of the first period. And we were walking around, and I'm holding up the Firehouse sign, and we've got one or two or three actions. We basically either got a "Let's go Buffalo" chant, or
Yeah.
Firehouse, or "Shut the fuck up, go
Yeah.
back to Canada."
Yeah, that was great too. Remember some of the Buffalo fans that actually wanted pictures with us holding the sign?
Yes, I remember that. And I remember Britt was just like, "I want no part of this."
Right.
No, but I think the funniest one took place when you were just mentioning about Mike Harrington, and he finds me in the crowd with the
Yeah.
sign, and I put up my arm against like this,
Right, you're like-
against the wall. Yeah, and I'm not even looking at the Sabres. I was in disgust, and I'm looking at the crowd with the wall, and I remember Mike Harrington said, "Oh look, a Sabres fan." Up against the boards, and he has a Fire Housing song, and I'll
Yeah.
never forget this. The comments.
Oh, you caught some shit on X back in the day.
I didn't care. I was telling the
Right.
truth.
Right.
And he's like, "Fuck you! You're a fucking asshole! Go to hell! You're not a real Sabres fan!" I mean-
but then you had the people that are like, finally, someone says it like it is.
I don't care because you know what? You know how Buffalo is. Buffalo's very liberal. So at that point, it's like they couldn't take it at offense to the point where I was getting my point across and trying to tell the truth at the same time. It's like you
Mhm.
can't do one thing over the other. You
Right.
just can't.
Yeah, and needless to say, I mean, we might have predicted something because a week later, Housley was fired, and then we went to the soccer guy era.
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
Ralph
Ralph
Kruger.
Kruger.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ. And the Islanders still had Jack Happy. Oh no. No, not Barry Trotz. I think it was Jack Capuano. He was still the coach, and the Doug. No, it was Doug Waite. Doug Waite was coaching the Islanders at that time. And
yeah, I was
then
gonna say, because wasn't Gar Snow still a GM at that time too?
yeah, or it might have been Trotz because Trotz got hired in 2018. No, it's Trotz. Trotz was still coaching the Islanders at that
Okay.
time. So, in a way, it's just funny to me because it's like all this just build up for that. And I remember the Islanders had to win that game to make the playoffs, and they did. So,
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah, so that's one of our big time moments that we did have, and then thinking about some of the other things too. Even though we like to be very critical about sports, I mean, we've also had some moments where we've been able to do some good for others too, and yeah, we've had the funny moments. But of course, we were one of the first to go live after the whole Damar Hamlin incident, and I know we ended up sending some money to UC and did that. Then of course, we had the whole incident right after the Super Bowl celebration in Kansas City, where we were one of the very first that actually encouraged Bills fans on X at the time. It's like, hey, make a donation, do like a $17 donation to Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, which I remember that, and we actually our tweets at the time were actually featured in Kansas City Star. We ended up getting a lot of recognition for it. Actually, we have a pretty good Kansas City fan base on our X now, and that have stayed with us. So that part's pretty cool. But you know, we were able to do some good for them, and that was really nice to be part of that. And now I know 26 Shirts founder Del Reed gets credit for starting everything, but at the time, you know, the more originally I thought, oh, so he's taking credit for what we started, but at the same time, I mean, he actually did have something right out around the same time. But whatever, we were like the underground. We actually ended up getting a lot of good things going. I mean, he had a good cause, we had a good cause, and we made some things work out of that. And actually, I did donate to them again after that a little bit. But no, it was something. Considering what the circumstances were, we gave back, and we brought some, and we showed, hey. Bill's Mafia is good people, and that's one of the things that we had. So that was a good moment. One of the other good moments, I think, obviously, we met her. They've become good friends to you and myself. Sophia and her family. We featured her on the show
Yes.
for a good half hour, and good news, she is doing well. So that's a big plus, and we'll be seeing them when they come back from Baltimore. But nice thing is, we were able to take care of a situation there, and it's good to see her doing well. So we've been able to make some good things happen out of the show. At the same time, where even though we're known for ripping people a new one in the sports world, and also we like to try to give some laughs too. I mean, deep down, we like to do a lot of good things to give back.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I must mention is because this became a trend for us, and not just a trend, but more of a tradition. But I have to give the credit to Brittany because this was originally her idea. Was
Mhm.
Road to 32. I think that
Yeah.
was because honestly, without Brittany, this would never have happened, and that's the honest to God truth. And she's actually standing next to me, so I think that. For her to be in the room to hear that, I think really to me says a lot
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
she's a part of all this, and she may not be on the show, but she's a part of it, and I think that means the world to everybody.
Mhm. Yeah,
from
a lot of
just
stuff behind the scenes, and she's helped
yeah,
with different trips that we've done, and I mean, just thinking about it, let's see, we had our trip to Kansas City, we've done Cincinnati, we've done Seattle, and now of
yeah,
course we're going to do Pittsburgh this year, so of course we'll have that coming up. And by the way, McAfee virus scan, fuck you very much. And I do not endorse them because they ended up screwing me over twice now. So yeah, that's a whole nother story, and it's not one for the show. But anyways, but no, we've expanded to where we have a yearly tradition now, where we've actually gone to different cities to watch Bills games, and you guys have been able to see some of the different things, and the Road to 32. It's on. Hanson's channel here, and a lot of what you get to see is not only the actual game day, but you get to see some of the different places around the cities we go to, and get to see just some of what we want to see, and some of the different things we explore. And it's kind of funny because some of you may think, well, what do you guys do when you're in a different city? And it's like, we actually plan out a lot of these things up to 6 months
we
out.
do, and the three of us usually talk as a group, and then sometimes we'll take other people with us. Rob Hazu, for example, we took him to
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
yeah.
He's coming with us to Pittsburgh, but it's little things like that I think really speaks volume about fandom of the sport of football
Mhm.
because we originally started out just as a hockey channel,
Yeah.
and then we grew our product from there. And I think we've both really grown the idea about doing yearly traditional videos of doing different trips. And I remember, and I'll never forget this, was the first time that we started doing Road to 32, before it was Road to 32,
Mhm.
unannounced at that time.
Yeah.
You said you've never been to a Bills game outside of Buffalo at
Right.
that time.
Yeah, and now it's gonna be 4 of them this year. So it's one of those. I had never been to Kansas City. I have driven to Cincinnati before, but never actually stayed in Cincinnati. So that was fun. Their stadium sucks ass, but no, it was a fun time there. Then of course our big trip to Seattle. We were never in the Pacific Northwest, either of us. And being able to see that city, and you've actually been back to Seattle one other time since.
Yes.
And then of course we hit Vancouver, Canada. Neither of us had ever been there, and that was one of the cities I really wanted to see. And finally got to cross off that I saw an actual Canadian team in an actual Canadian arena. So
I
that
have
was
two
that.
on my resume: Toronto and Vancouver.
Yeah. Yeah, just Vancouver for me, although I've seen the Maple Leafs play here in Buffalo. But no, it was just interesting, like some of the different things we've been able to do. And certainly then with how the show's grown, I mean, the fact that we're now looking at sponsorships and different things to help us even further, which is great. Definitely want to say, you know, with the restaurant we've been plugging this year, I Barbecue for You, we definitely appreciate that. And I know it's been a little bit tough for me to come and get some really good barbecue from you guys since I moved, but definitely want to make a trip back in there soon and definitely order some stuff. So of course, you know, we appreciate us being able to plug you guys this year, and you know, that's definitely been great.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna work on some sponsorships from Long Island on my end before September. I'm hoping, and you know, we got a lot of cool stuff coming on the way in the very near future. It's basically the same thing that you're seeing now, but it's just gonna be more advanced. But
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be going into a lot more details and hopefully more interviews and things like that because these things are not easy. I'll say that.
No, it's not. And the thing about doing interviews, it's always, you always have to work around different schedules and different things. And when we've been able to grab interviews previously, it's definitely you know, it's tough to do it. When we're able to get them, it's great. But it is definitely something where you know, it is what it is. It actually, one thing I will say, and Pete Gelly from the Sabres actually did tweet this, and take it for what it's worth. He says, quote, "I have said consistently we have a lot of things to work on at the Sabres. A critical broadcast is not one of them. Would have been happy to tell anyone that asked. It's tough to respond to everything, but wanted to clear that up." Okay, so he's part of the problem.
There you go.
Okay.
But I do want to say to not only to us two, we've been able to make so many different memories from Road to 32 to all these jokes and then doing all these donations and things like that. We really did a lot as an underground podcast. And I think that I'm very, very proud of the accomplishments that we've been able to do under the Buffalo After Dark name. And
Yeah.
to say that we're about to retire the name, I think emotionally, it plays a huge part in our lives. And I think we've been doing this now for about 12 years as far as in the podcast business.
Yeah.
But as far as Buffalo After Dark, you know, this is probably easily one of the best moments of my life. Just because I got to meet you on a normal basis. I got to expand, you know, my fanhood, you know, for football and hockey and all that. And I've been able to take you to different places you've never been to before. We've been able to do all these things, and it's honestly great. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty much looking forward to our new adventures down the road.
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to meeting new people. I'm looking forward to just getting started with this new journey. I mean, am I going to hold the memories? Absolutely, without a doubt. I love doing the show. I love putting my heart and energy in for this. I love doing this because realistically, without you as well, I don't think we wouldn't have a podcast. I don't think
Yeah.
that we would be sitting here today talking about Buffalo After Dark as like what we're doing, you know.
Right.
But as you can see in my background, it's a cowboy because you guys know I'm a big outdoor guy.
Yeah.
He's riding into the sunset, and I think that's the message that we're sending out here. It's kind of like an epilogue of a book. You know, this is the final chapter of this era, and then we're gonna retire the name, and then we're gonna start a new era.
Yeah. Well, you never know. We could always go retro for an episode and bring it back for the fun of it. But no, it's going to be good. I mean, and I would have never thought, you know, looking back at it, I know we've got a few minutes before we hit the 2 hour mark, but I want to say, looking back 12 years, I would have never thought I would have gone into doing podcasting whatsoever. I would have never thought about it. So actually, it was interesting when we first connected, and this was back when we both had different sites going on. What ended up happening is just there was a lot of fun stuff that happened. I mean, we brought in some different things that people had never seen before. And I think what it did, it allowed us both to expand an audience. And for a while, I had a post-game show with the Sabres every game. And and I actually retired the After the Horn name that I had. But it was one of those things at the time, I'm like, all right, yeah, we get a quick 30-minute post game where we go off and we talk about a lot of different things. But part of that was like kind of like my initial thing. And I hadn't done that until the time that we met, because I know you had been doing that a lot longer than I had. So then, thinking about it, we eventually ended up combining different things. We started running different podcasts. We played around with different ideas and different things. And then eventually we got into some of our longer interviews, which of course we've had the opportunity to interview Clinton Malarchuk, Mike Hartman, Derek Plant. I think without the show, we never really would have gotten to that point. and actually, and I don't want to forget your cousin Matt either. So there's that. But no, I think we've done a lot of good things on the show. We're basically underground media, and it's the way we like it.
Yeah.
Sure, we've been building our following and we've expanded into different things, and it's good. I mean, besides, whether we've been critical, whether we've had a lot of fun and joking around a lot of stuff. I remember season 1, there were episodes we went 4 or 5 hours on Saturday nights. We were just talking about random stuff, but just kind of finding our way. But it's been a good journey here. So the Buffalo After Dark name, yes, it's going to be retired, and yes, it's after 225 episodes, it's our last one under this name. But I think it's a nice future ahead of us, and we've got some new stuff that we'll be doing. John, you've met. He's going to be joining us next season, and for season 1 of I-86 After Dark, and we're going to talk more about statewide sports and more national sports in general. So we just thought, we evolved into it. I mean, Buffalo After Dark season 1 was primarily Bills and Sabres. That's all it was. Yep. And then think about it, 5 years later, now we talk about everything. Especially baseball, a lot of the wrestling. We've added baseball, basketball to some extent, like we had tonight. We had wrestling's been on there, I know, with Sean, and then now with John. And just thinking about some of the things we've expanded to, it's neat to see how it's grown. And obviously I think we wouldn't have gotten there without that. So it's a great way to leave the show, but we've got new stuff coming up. Obviously, this summer, if we have anything that's really breaking news or anything crazy comes up, of course, we can always jump on. But I'm looking forward to seeing what season 1 of I-86 After Dark does, and we'll keep the good things, and we'll introduce some new stuff, and we're glad that you guys are a part of it.
Yep. So for those of you who want to know, the first season of I-86 After Dark with this new era will start on Wednesday, September 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is going to be on the calendar in the next 2 months. Mm-hmm. So 2 months from today, basically, we're going to be back on the air. So we're going on our summer break, and this will be the final time that myself and Tom will be representing Buffalo After Dark, and we will forever be grateful of all the accomplishments that we did. Honestly, I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
And I am forever thankful for you. I'm thankful for Brittany. I'm thankful for all of you, the viewers, the subscribers. I want to thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts for sticking by with us for all these years, for all the drama, through all the hilarity, all of it. I've had a blast on Buffalo After Dark, and I cannot thank you guys enough for being everyday listeners to us. And I know we rumble on about a lot of things, but that's the whole beauty of it. That's what makes it fun for us.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, and likewise too, everyone that we've had the chance to meet along the way, we appreciate it. Actually, it's kind of funny too. We've gained some followers off of the last time we were in New York City when we went to a Mets game. How we got I think we got 4 people following when we were on the train going back to Jamaica. So we had that. Of course, one of the fun moments also when I was part of Holiday Touchdown on Bill's Love Story and as one of the extras, and we actually had people watching our show right next to me in the stands. That was pretty cool. So we were able to get some new people that way too. But just we've grown because of people like you that watch. So we appreciate it, and we are grateful because without having a fan base, we don't do this show. So that's kind of where it is. So with that being said, of course, feel free to follow us on Twitter, of course, at Horns and Hooves ENT. Of course, you can follow us on Spotify. Right now it is Buffalo After Dark. We're going to rename it, but of course our Buffalo After Dark episodes will still be there. Of course, follow us on YouTube at H&H Entertainment, and of course our Buffalo Buffalo After Dark episodes, as well as anything new that we have with I-86 After Dark next season will be there. So no, we're not deleting our old stuff. We're basically all of our episodes are still here. So you can watch all 225 going back to season 1 if you want to binge watch them all. There's
Imagine that.
hours and hours of content.
Oh, definitely. So, with that being said, let's give it a round of applause. Honestly,
Yeah.
5+ years,
Yep.
5+ years
just,
of Buffalo After Dark. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
gonna miss this show, man. So, one last question before we wrap up, and that is, what are you gonna miss the most about doing the show?
Trying to think. I think just I think it's just like part of it is just like good history with us, because I mean, we do a lot to prep. I mean, there's things we do like the day before or hours before. We bounce off different things we want to talk about. So I think just some of the things we did in general. I won't miss building graphics for this show though. I remember we went through a bunch of live stuff, and we finally settled on a platform that actually works. But I remember some of the initial things early on, and just trial and error with getting stuff live, and then of course when Facebook decided to screw us over and we couldn't go live for a while. But we found another way to do it. So I think just part of it is just the overall history of the show is probably going to be the biggest thing I would miss. But you know what? It's had a good run. And now after 5 full years, and I would say we've done almost 52 episodes a year, a season, which is a lot. It's something where, you know what? It's time to evolve the show. And I think we're leaving it in a good spot.
Yeah. So, with that being said, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up for the final time?
No, just everyone that's followed us, thank you. We appreciate that, and we look forward to the new show starting in September. Of course, keep following us, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna introduce some new things. So a lot of good stuff is coming.
Yeah, we love you guys. We wish you all the best. We'll see you right back on here in September for I-86 After Dark. Can't say it enough.
Yep.
And with that being said, with all of our original subscribers at Buffalo After Dark, thank you.
Yep.
From the bottom of our hearts. We very much do. Thank you for giving us the time. Thank you for giving us a chance to do what we both love. And I think that's really special to me.
Yep.
In a way.
Absolutely. So for the last time on Buffalo After Dark, of course, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you down the road.